Next question is by a guy by the name of the Disliker.
The disliker.
The Disliker.
Ooh, how does he feel about our podcast?
He says, what are your opinions about the value of charisma compared to character in society? Do you think it's fair that someone may be judged based on how charismatic they are rather than things such as morals, actions, etc.?
Do I think it's fair? I think so. There's two words that always I think they're misused if people thought deeply about them, and they're similar. It's fair and deserve. We have this idea of what the world ought to be like because perhaps our parents told us that it was this way, and whether or not it's fair, it is the case. Would I change it were I emperor of the universe? I think so. I would change a lot of the things we talked about. I'd make polarization not such an easy way to earn money, right?
Yeah, I'd make the brain less hyped in for scandals.
Yeah.
More hyped in for substance.
And I would probably also make character matter more than the confidence with which one says something. But whether it's fair or not, I don't necessarily think that's the word that I would use to describe it. So I'll pass on that question, but it is the case.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I think is interesting. So I do think that in the short term, you are judged on your charisma. No one can know your character. You know what I mean? So yeah, absolutely, you are correct in that is how the world works. Your charisma determines what people think of you. Yeah. Just straight up. First impression, even long term, 3 months in. Eventually, character does rise to the surface. Eventually, good character will get you loyal friends. It might not get you a ton of friends if you have no charisma, but loyal friends, a loyal relationship. I think people who respect you if they know you, right? I think the best thing to do is have high charisma and high character. The one thing I do want to say, I think at the end of the day, it all is your actions, right? Your charisma is how you speak and how you carry yourself, but your character is also, I think, only your actions. Because I see a lot of people who are upset with how dating works because they say that I'm such a nice guy or I'm such a nice woman and the dating world is rigged against me because all people care about is this other stuff. But when you look at their actions, there is nothing to denote high character. It's just them trying to talk to, for instance, I've seen this a lot in guys, talking to a woman, it not going well, and then them going, what a bitch. Oh, she's a whatever, saying mean things. Well, that's not high character. That's sour grapes. So I think that charisma is important. I think that high character is important. I think we all think we're high character. Yeah. And what I would suggest people do is look at your own actions because that's what other people should judge you on. It's not what you say. If you say you're wonderful, people should just completely ignore that fact. So yeah, I think to the person who's writing this, what do you do in your life that shows how high character you are? Because if you are volunteering at nonprofits, donating your money, going out of your way to make other people smile and laugh, opening the door for people, seeing someone drop something and picking it up for them, I guarantee that you will make great impressions. Not on everyone, because you also should be funny and smiling and all that, but people will notice that character and it will draw people to you. But if you are just, I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying I've seen people who don't worry about their charisma, aren't making good first impressions, and are grumpy because the world is unfair, because they're such wonderful people, but no one knows how wonderful they are. That's not high character. There's nothing high character about being alone in your apartment complaining. So actually living out in the world as someone with extremely high character will get you noticed, I think. But I would say all that matters is your actions, not your thoughts.
There's I think intention matters, but I don't think that's necessarily what you're saying.
No, I'm just saying people like to think of themselves as these high character people, and you go, well, what have you done in the last week that was high character? That I would see, because I'm not in your brain. That's the thing, is we see our thoughts all the time. We monitor our own thoughts. So that's how we judge ourselves. Well, other people only judge you based on what they see you do. So if you're having all these wonderful, kind thoughts, but you don't say nice things to people, sure, maybe you're a kind person internally, but how would I know you're kind? Versus if you're the kind of person that walks around saying, oh my God, you did this thing and I think it's amazing. That'll make you friends. That'll get you the positive results you're talking about. Remember our friend Austin said that he was really kind about your major when you were 19. And we still talk about it 13 years later because it wasn't just a nice thought he said, it was a nice thought he shared, So sure, your character can be what happens internally, but other people can only know your character to the extent that you show it with your actions and your behavior.
Yeah, no, I think a great exercise is to describe yourself without using the verb to be. So you don't get to say, I am a good friend. You have to say, I picked my friend up at the airport yesterday. I texted X, Y, or Z, and when I think verbs have a place. I think who you in the deepest sense who you are is a wonderfully important question, but when we're talking about developing character, often it can get in the way because similar to driving and intelligence, everybody rates themselves as above average.
Yeah, everyone thinks they're a better driver than they are, or everyone thinks they're above average driver.
Yeah,
and everyone thinks they're above average character.
And
it can't be the case.
Big one.
It can't be the case.
And so so just having to write down what you do, is a really useful exercise. And if you struggle, then it's a great solution to that is to do things. Okay, what could I write down? And then, if I wrote this down, that would be good. I'll go make sure I can write that down.
Yeah, what would high character actions be? And if if you're saying, it's not fair that people judge based on charisma, well, what would high character actions be that you'd be proud of doing and that people would also like you for? Again, I have a friend who he met someone he's dating because he was shoveling mulch for a nonprofit that helped plant trees. And he met a woman who was shoveling mulch for the same nonprofit. They started talking and they, ended up briefly dating or whatever you want to call it. So that's an action that people could see. She could judge his character by the fact that he was shoveling mulch, So yeah, I think character it will help short term, long term, but it has to be high character actions.
Sure. Agree. Who's next?
That's it for fan questions.